Ain't nothing peculiar about the way that I was raised, and my heart is on the way.
Hey everybody, I hope my unicorn warriors are doing great. I wanted to go over, because we know what we've been saying this whole time about Mica went to 3 different attorneys, and all 3 attorneys, when they found out who they were going against, denied taking Mica's case. But then when Mica went to Regina Ward and she found out who she was going up against, she was very happy to take the case. So, shout out to True Sunlight Podcast. They did an interview with Miss Regina Ward, and if you listen, you'll know that what we've been saying is true. And then also the way Regina Ward acts in this interview is, I don't know, it kind of seems strange or off to me. So we'll go ahead and get into it. So she had bought a house from a lady that Wayne Miller pretty much was telling the lady, you got to sell your house. And I don't know, there's a lot of similarities to this case and another case that we've talked about, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm actually do a little digging on that one and see if I can find any of the dots to connect on that one. So, but we're going to listen to the interview that they had with Regina Ward, and y'all let me know if it seems, I don't know, the way she kind of acted seemed really strange.
In the Daily Mail, the headline for it would be, Mica Miller's divorce attorney, Regina Ward, who got a controversial settlement from Mica's alleged abuser and harasser, i.e. Mica's estranged husband, Pastor J.P. Miller, on behalf of Mica's family after Mica's mysterious death in a North Carolina swamp, ending the family's ability to bring suit against anyone found responsible for Mica's death later on, bought a home from elderly woman in bankruptcy, the same home that J.P. Miller's father, Pastor Wayne Miller, urged 2 courts to sell out from under the elderly woman to repay strange loans his church gave to elderly woman over a course of 7 weeks. Reporter Beth Braden spoke to Regina Ward on Wednesday about this house. Here's that interview.
One of the things that we noticed was that he had sued a lady named Evelyn Califf. Yeah. And we were looking up Miss Evelyn's information. It looks like you ended up buying the house that Miss Califf sold.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I know, small world. But I wanted to, just for, our reporting purposes and for being factual, I just wanted to call and ask if you knew about Mica's connection to Wayne at the time she hired you.
Okay, if I knew about Wayne's connection with what?
With Mica, when Mica hired you to represent her in the divorce.
Was her father-in-law, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not following the question.
Sorry, did you know that Mica was Wayne Miller's daughter-in-law when Mica came to you to hire you for her divorce from JP?
Oh, no, not on the front end, of course. I mean, that's not something when people come in and want to get a divorce, I don't ask them what their in-law names are.
Right.
And I didn't know, she just gave me her husband's name, and which I knew what he was. And it wasn't until after Mica's passing that I started digging it myself into that family and the background, and came across Wayne Miller's background, and I uncovered the same thing. I was like, oh my God, what a weird kind of a thing. But evidently, as the story goes, Miss Coates-Califf.
And also pay attention to how she talks about this family that she supposedly doesn't know, and other aspects and things about the people that own the home. Like, to me, it doesn't sound good, and it's not a good look. And especially, like, with us, like, in general, talking about the case, like, we always have to say, you know, allegedly, or speculation, or my opinion. And she just, you know, I don't know. Y'all just listen.
Evidently embezzled some money from the church or something like that.
Embezzled? Now that is interesting. Regina was either told a different story about this, or she is misremembering the facts. An 80-something-year-old woman who didn't drive and likely had dementia, how would she have access to that much money at the church? And why then is Wayne presenting it like it was a loan? If Regina was told that this was an embezzlement, then why? If everything was above board with this church loan, then why would anyone have to lie about the origin of Evelyn's alleged debt?
And also, we know that certain people in this case like to embezzle and love to blame others for embezzling. Just like they try to set Mica up for embezzlement. And so if it's kind of like read between the lines. And so this is kind of like connecting some of the dots for us. But y'all just coming up here in just a second, like a split second, she's gonna do something that really made me raise both my eyebrows at that. So
also, it's interesting that Regina says she didn't know about Mica's connection to Wayne Miller at the time that Mica hired her, because that could be a problem for her if she did. From what our Cup of Justice co-host Eric Bland tells us, that would be a conflict of interest.
Now remember, she just got through saying that she knew who JP was. She knew who JP Diddy was, and what he was about, or what he did, or, you know, like she knew.
Meaning, if Regina knew that the church had a lien on the house that she was buying, and the church was started by and run by Wayne, and she knew that JP Miller, her client's husband, was Wayne's son. Let's get back to Beth's interview.
And the church was Wayne Miller's, quote, church. And so he got a judgment, obviously against her, but then Miss Caleb, I didn't know her at all, but when they got the judgment, of course, whenever the house came on the market for sale, I had been looking for a house on the Intercoastal Waterway for quite some time, and you know, that house came available. From what I understand, she got dementia, and you know, had to have a conservator and guardian appointed for her. Her son, I believe, actually OD'd on drugs and died inside the house. So people don't want to live in a house where people die. So anyway, they needed to, the conservator decided to put the house on the market, obviously, because there was no one to live there, and they needed the money to fund her stay at whatever, you know, facility that she was placed in for care and, you know, that kind of stuff. So the house was in terrible shape. And there was kind of like a little bidding war, I would say, to it, and thankfully I won it, and completely gutted the house, and the neighbors who come in, and they go, there's not near a bit of that old house in here anymore. I said, that's right.
Oh, yeah. While Evelyn was dealing with the bankruptcy issue, her son, Clinton Califf, died in the house in December 2020. According to a source of Dana's, he was dead for a week before Evelyn went to a neighbor to say that her husband wasn't waking up, which kind of gives you an idea of Evelyn's state of mind at the time. Regina said that she wasn't aware of the judgment against Evelyn and her house until she went to close on the house, and said she wasn't aware of the amount of money that got sent to the church. Then Beth asked her about her representation of Mica's family against J.P. Miller and his church.
Okay, and Reggie, J.P. Diddy's dad, was trying to force Miss Evelyn into selling her house for a specific amount of money, and $500,000. She was trying to force her to sell her home for $500,000, and Regina Ward ended up buying it for $551,000, I think. I could be wrong, but they talk about that though. And but that's, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm looking too much into that part. I don't know, but it's just something about that just, I don't know. It just seems, I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy.
Which was settled this past summer for an undisclosed amount that we understand to be under $200,000. Like we said, the settlement meant the family had to give up their right to file a wrongful death case against anyone who might be found to have been responsible for or who might have contributed to.
Okay, now they're talking about, right here, they're talking about the global settlement that Regina Ward had the family do, and they all agreed upon, and they got the settlement. But apparently in that settlement, I guess there can't be a wrongful death or any kind of suit against anyone, if I'm hearing that right, and if I'm understanding that right. So as in law enforcement or anyone that did not help Mica when she called or did, like they do follow-ups and all kinds of things for J.P. Diddy, when he calls, they'll do follow-ups and make reports and stuff like that. But when Mica called, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll check it out, whatever, or it's marital property, and J.P. Diddy could just, call the law and have her kicked out of her own house, which to me, isn't that marital property? But they can kick her out and she can't get her things?
Mica's death in the future, potentially meaning the police for ignoring her multiple cries for help, the therapist who signed off on what appears to have been a fraudulent commitment order, and meaning JP and his church. Because, again, there's still an FBI investigation open here, and a lot of questions are still not answered.
After you figured out that Wayne Miller had filed against Miss Coates Califf, did you let Mica's family know about that when you were representing them, or how did that all go down?
I didn't see any issue there. It was a house that I bought, and the history that came with it had nothing to do with anything that was happening today.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understand what you're thinking there. Tell me what you're thinking.
I don't understand what you're thinking there. Tell me what you're thinking there. Like, ooh, she sound a little snooty right there, don't she? I mean, that's just, my opinion or whatever, but really listen to this. This is the part that really stuck out to me. It was just so odd, and I don't know, it was just weird.
There.
Yeah, we're just so,
oh my God, the house I bought, Califf owned, and she stole money from Wayne Miller's church, and Wayne Miller got a judgment.
What Regina seems to be saying here is that Wayne had a claim against Evelyn, and even though she bought Evelyn's house, which ended up serving Wayne's purposes in terms of getting paid back, it was not a connection that rose to a level where Regina felt like it had any relevance to her representation of the family. But again, that could be up for debate. One thing to note, though, it's not clear when Regina learned of the house's connection to Wayne, because the court order authorizing the sale of the house to her does not mention his name, but rather the name of the church. I will say this. It appears that Myrtle Beach is a very, very small world. It's one of those connections that might loom larger in hindsight now that we all know so much about the Miller churches and their pastors. But it's also one of those connections that was immediately brought to our attention when Mica's death became public. It was like the second thing that was said. Mica's husband is J.P. Miller, who gave that weird sermon the morning after, and he is the son of televangelist Wayne Miller of Cathedral Baptist Church, who has a criminal history. Just saying. Anyway, here's Regina again with her impression of the Evelyn situation at the time.
Yeah, that was kind of like the, I don't remember if I found that there was a criminal charge or not, but it wasn't he was, swindling her out of something. It was somebody stole some money from him, and she probably knew he was a piece of crap and probably thought he wouldn't say anything because he's a piece of crap and probably stealing money himself. So that's just me surmising, but yeah, it was pretty clear that it had to do with her, basically taking the money or something out of it.
Don't you mean allegedly, Regina? Because that's not the story of how things happened and what went down. It was not Miss Evelyn just stealing all this money and embezzling everything from this church. No, that's not how it happened.
Church. When I closed on the house, we were dealing with a conservator who had the authority to act on her behalf. And now it was an attorney, I think, in Greenville or somewhere. I can't remember what.
Why does that sound so familiar? If anybody can remember the Greenville, that I don't know why, but might just be me overthinking.
Any attorney that I knew around here. At that point, they had placed her, in a nursing home of some sort because of her, mental health had declined to the point she couldn't take care of herself. She was emaciated and, just...
So how was she stealing and embezzling and coming up with this whole crime scheme of things to do all this stuff, but she was in her 80s and had dementia and was she wasn't mentally right then, during the whole process of the house and everything, and before that. How?
From what I don't know this personally, this is what I was told by neighbors, because everybody wanted to come tell me what happened in the house.
Again, there was no embezzlement, and it's not clear if Evelyn had a conservator or when that occurred, but right up until her bankruptcy case ending, everything seemed addressed directly to her and not a conservator on her behalf. But how interesting, right? Let's go back to Wayne, shall we? We need more context to understand some things, such as, is it normal for a church to lend an 82-year-old woman nearly $50,000 in 5 payments over the course of 7 weeks? Is it normal for a church to allegedly spend its last penny giving these loans to the woman? Wayne, by his own account, seems to have sacrificed the good of his church for the good of one person. He lost a lucrative insurance policy because of it, allegedly, and had to move into JP's church because of it, allegedly. So why did he do it? And don't give me this, he's a pastor and wants to help people. And nope, that does not work here, because helping people does not include pleading guilty to 4 felonies in connection to his egregious mistreatment of students. Helping people doesn't include repeatedly giving large amounts of money to an octogenarian woman who might have dementia week after week when the situation, as Wayne described it to the court, sounded pretty precarious with her son. Wayne admitted that he was content to wait until Evelyn died to get that money back. That's what the confession of judgment was for, by the way, so he could put a lien against her estate. Speaking of that, Evelyn is no longer with us. She appears to have died this past December. And before that, she appeared to have moved out of the house during her bankruptcy proceedings. And as Dana Hanna discovered this week after a labyrinthine chain of phone calls, Evelyn died in a state-run nursing home in Chesterfield County, 2.5 hours in 5 counties away from her home, where she reportedly didn't have any family. So how did she end up there? Is this a case of an adult son draining his mother's resources until she was destitute, or was something else going on here? If you or anyone you know has information about Evelyn Cowell.
Exactly. See, the math ain't math and it's not adding up. So, y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. And oh yeah, JPD's put out 10 lawsuits, which I found out that morning of the day of when the information came out. But as far as I know, nobody's actually been served yet. And don't know, I don't understand, because he's going after smaller people. Why wouldn't he go after the bigger people that's known to have money if he wants to get rich scheme or whatever? And also, some more update. Well, I'll give y'all an Easter egg. Yeah, I'm gonna give y'all an Easter egg in here. So let me know. Anyway, love y'all. Hope everyone has a great night. And if today's your birthday, happy birthday. Please like, subscribe, comment. I love reading your comments. And let's have a discussion. Bye.